Hi, I'm Cheeno Marlo Sayuno. I'm a storybook writer from the Philippines. And today, I'm going to read you my poem entitled The Seeds of Camachile, published in the poetry anthology To Let the Light In. The Seeds of Camachile. Our Inavinyang once said, if you are able to separate the black coating of a camachile seed without tearing anything apart, you can throw them all up the roof and wish for anything in the world. We were young, and all we wanted then were coins to buy sweets from a nearby sari-sari store. And so, whenever a maguding came home with a bucket full of camachile fruit, my mommy and her siblings would rush to eat, mindless of the sweet tamarind taste, only wanting to peel the seeds, hoping to turn them into their own desires. When Inavinyang was taken to the hospital, she could not lift her arms. Her lips were frozen, even if she had a lot of stories to tell. My first move was not to hug her tight or help her to get up from the bed or assist in the changing of diapers. I ran into the nearby forest, nestled beyond our backyard, nightfall tailing me like the thief, the wind my unfortunate company. As soon as I found the one tree, mindless of the creeping darkness, I clutched one fruit in my hand, peeled it, ate the meat, and spat it away. My thick hands were careful, trembling but unwavering, wanting to peel one seed, just one seed, so that Ina can be better again. Okay, so growing up, we did not have a lot of access to reading materials because back then things were very difficult for us. And so the only exposure that I have to poetry was when I started studying in high school during English classes, wherein we will talk about the classics of Western literature. But I remember having this small notebook where I would try to write poetry as a child. Probably I was grade school to early high school back then. But when I grew up, I was somehow afraid of writing poetry because I felt like what I was writing was not enough, or this was not at par with how people write poetry. And so I am glad for this project actually, and for my grandmother as well. My mother and my aunt, they recalled this instance where my grandmother would bring home camachile fruit, and then they would peel the seed, and then if they were able to perfectly peel the seed, they could throw these perfectly peeled seeds up the roof, and then it would turn into coins. But of course, ultimately it didn't become coins. But it was a fond memory that they have during their childhood. So when the cousin had camachile fruits, I also tried peeling the seeds. And actually, it was very difficult because every time I tried, they would say, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. And so we laughed about it. So when my mom and my aunt shared the story of how the camachile fruits related to my grandmother, I decided to combine their experience as children with my own experience and our experience actually as a family. I have some experience in taking care of my grandmother and my grandfather. So my grandmother, Inavinya, was mentioned in the poetry. She's no longer with us for quite a few years now. And then my grandfather died just last year before the lockdowns were put in place. Actually, we were at that moment wherein it was about to the government has just placed our country in lockdown, and we're still grieving our grandfathers. During the time of my Inavinyang, my grandmother, she had a stroke, and after that stroke, she was unable to move. She cannot speak. And back then, I was in college, and my contribution was very little actually because I was still studying. And then when I started working, I was still just earning so little, and so there was little contribution in terms of finances. So what I did, I was always there to help my aunt and my mom in taking care of my grandmother. But I felt like I was not doing enough. So when she died, actually, I was not able to come home right away because I was starting with a job that I cannot so easily be absent. So when it was my grandfather, Maguding, who had to be hospitalized, this time I was already more mature. So I was more active in terms of taking care of my grandfather. I was among the people who had to take turns in staying with him overnight, whether it was in the hospital or at home. I was also part of the discussions in terms of the practical aspects, such as the finances, because these are things that we also have to face. Thinking about it now, sometimes I really wish that I was also that active when it was my inavinyang, my grandmother who was suffering, because I was more close to my grandmother than my grandfather. Although, of course, I love them both. First, it is a joint effort among all members of the family. So no matter how little, everyone takes their part. So some would be there to take care, to provide immediate care every day. Those who are changing diapers, those who are attending to the sick family member, and others would contribute to the finances or to the logistics of driving to the hospital, for example, or in terms of buying what the patient needs. And even children, actually, they have contributions because they are the ones who bring joy to the family member who is suffering from the illness. And there's actually value in that. I remember my grandmother, she cannot speak, but whenever all the grandchildren are there, she would smile and she would try to laugh. And sometimes she can't laugh, but that her eyes are happy. The next recommendation or tip that I can give is that there's no place actually for regret. We fight together as much as we can. We fight for our loved ones. We fight with our loved ones. And we will there for them no matter what. And whatever happens, we give the care and love to the best of our abilities. And our loved one would appreciate that.